Hi, this is János, and we are continuing our exploration with sound and picture. And previously I was looking at Rush recording and other music. How does it play in your stereo system? Does it give you joy? Can it give you joy? Will it give you joy? And of course, when we don't have a second thought about the audio system, we have just put your playlist on and let your computer play and adjust everything. You will get what you get. And then for some of us, we want to get more out of it, just like in the case of photography. For some, you have your cell phone, you take a few shots and you are happy with it. That's the equivalent of getting the music from just the most convenient source that you have, which might be your phone, right? But some of us, actually myself for sure, and probably you as well, if you are watching this video, you are watching it because you want more than just what a general cell phone capture does. You want to paint with light, because when we capture a photograph, then it's painting with light. And what I noticed, that the difference between a cell phone and a dedicated camera, like my beloved 5D Classic, the difference between the two of them, there are a lot of differences, but the main difference is that with the Canon I can capture the soul of what I am looking at much more easily than I can do with the camera. And part of it is because with the Canon, which is an early digital camera, it's from the year 2005. That's when it was introduced. So we are looking at the 20th anniversary of this camera coming up, and this is a very early model. It is one of the early serial numbers, so probably it was manufactured in either late 2005 or sometimes in 2006. So yeah, this piece of equipment in my hands, not the lens, but the camera body itself, is almost, well, certainly at least 19 years old. But the lens as well, it was made in 2012, so that's also 12 years old now. So certainly something not from this decade, not from the 2020s, where my phone was made. And the difference between the two is that nowadays, when you get this cell phone, or if you get your mirrorless cameras, they are doing a lot of things for yourself. So you don't have to think whatsoever about what you want to capture. You just point and you shoot, and done. And then you edit on your computer, because what I've noticed is when I have a cell phone, or even if I have a digital camera, a mirrorless digital camera, by the way, I'm making this video with a mirrorless digital camera, then I have to spend a lot of time on the computer to process the color, to process the contrast, to adjust the sharpness, tons of things, until I'm happy, until it brings me joy. Up to that point, there's a photograph with the digital image with a lot of information in it that doesn't give me joy. It has potential in it, but it has to be unwrapped. And that is a curse when I want to delectate myself with those pictures that I take. But it's also a blessing in the case now that I'm making this video. It makes it very easy for me, very easy to set up and just press the button to play and record, and I'm done. Very nice. This old camera, which is one of the earliest digital cameras, it's actually the first full frame sensor technology from Canon. This camera was built for very different prospects and very different ideas in mind. this was built like a film camera with those ideas and concepts that people used to make film cameras, which means that you had to be a photographer to use it and intimately know about settings and adjustments. And that's how this camera works. You need to have really solid basic photography skills to be able to use this camera to your advantage. Of course, it also has an automatic setting, you can point and shoot, but really the way to get nice shots with it is really use it in, I always use it in manual mode. That's my thing. People use it in program mode or aperture or speed shutter priority mode. For me, I'm a full manual guy. But this, I have been digressing. This is like hitting 6 minutes and I've been talking about cameras, but why? I promised I will talk about music, and that's because photography and music, they're both art. For me, they both do the same thing. For photography, we paint with light, and music, we paint with sound. And when you are a photographer, then we have the advantage that we are the ones who can create our own art. You just need a camera and just need a dedication to put time into it, so you develop the skills that you will be able to produce those moments of time and translate them into a two-dimensional plate which appears on your monitor, or you print it out, and then you can reconnect to that moment when that photograph was taken. And as you get a better and better photographer, you will be able to create photographs that can connect you on a deeper and deeper level to what your experience was back then. And it's not just for yourself, but you will notice that when you passionately pursue this, that you want to create this level of connection, and you are able to connect with your own photos, you will realize that other people will also be able to connect to those photographs at a deeper and deeper level. And it will be surprising to you. For me, it's surprising because I don't consider myself an experienced photographer. I've been just doing photos for my own enjoyment for 20 years, but never get into it like as a serious photographer type of thing. Why I am still at it strongly is because I have lots of photographer friends who are professional photographers, and they inspired me tremendously. They taught me a lot, and I still have this flame in me to capture the moment and share it with others. Actually, at this moment, I just really, my first goal is to capture it for myself, and then so that a year later, 10 years, 30, sometimes in the future, when I look at it, it can connect me back to the time when it was a different time. And to my huge surprise, I'm finding that others can also connect deeply to the pictures that I'm taking, and that's just an extra added bonus for me. So for those of you who want to get into photography and you are not confident in yourself and you don't know whether people will like your photos or not, my advice is that don't worry about whether others like it or not, and do not pursue a path that you think what others will like and grow towards there, but grow towards what you like and what you want to express. And when you can connect with it, and you can connect with it more and more, that's when others will be able to connect to it more and more. And the same applies to music as well. And I'm looking here because I have the Rush album here that we discussed in the previous episode, and under we I mean me and Kintaro, the cat, who is now on the floor chewing up some paper. And I promised that I'm going to show you other pop music which sounds really good on an audio system that you have cultivated to a level that it's capable to connect you at a very deep soul connection level to the music. And here how photography and sound reproduction, how audio connects, are a little bit different. Because with photography you work on your connection by building your own art. Everyone can do it. It's very easy, and I tell you, you don't need like a $5,000 mirrorless camera to take absolutely wonderful pictures that can connect deep in your soul. I have taken photos that deeply connect on my Canon 20D DSLR camera, which at that time still was quite a bit costly, but at that time this camera came out, but at that time this was just absolutely unreachable for me in price. And yet that there was the tremendous price difference between the two, but I can tell you guys and girls that the 20D even today it just can take absolutely wonderful, absolutely connecting marvelous pictures, and it's very, the character of the pictures you take is very similar to what you take with the 5D. It is a little bit more limited in certain areas like low light capability, but the tonality, the character, the feeling of the pictures is the same as with the 5D at an extremely affordable price. So, however, when we look at music, there you have to be a musician to make your own music. So in music we are not working with our own music, we are working with music that was recorded and released for our enjoyment. And the problem is that the recordings, the music, they are not recorded in the same way. So when you figure out how your stereo system plays Rush beautifully, actually this album of Rush beautifully, it will present other music absolutely dreadfully. And that's not the fault of the stereo system. It's the fault of, well, not the fault, but it's the consequence that different mastering engineers had very different ideas on what sound they like and what kind of equipment they used for the mastering. Because if they used a stereo system that was really deficient in the high frequencies, then they had to crank up the high frequencies to make it level. And if it had prodigious bass, then they had to cut down the bass to make it sound acceptable on that equipment that was used to master that record. And this Rush album, the Power Windows, was mastered on such an equipment. And the consequence of that is that it's going to sound good only if your equipment at home, your stereo, sounds exactly like the system that was used to master this album. And now, we usually have an average. So when you buy stereo systems and you put together, there will be fluctuations and deviations, but when you get like 100 stereo systems in 100 households, you average them out, they will be at least how the EQ goes will be kind of like a normal EQ, right? Kind of an average. And compared to the average, which is average because most home stereo systems are made to play back most of the recordings in an acceptable fashion. If they were not, then they would not sell well. So basically, how this album was mastered, it does not conform to 99% of stereo systems, how they are set up in your homes, and must be radically EQ'd to sound all right. So for this album you need a system where you can radically alter the EQ, basically totally change around what the intention of the mastering engineer was. And of course here we get into the question, because of the debate, that there are some people who says that I absolutely must hear what the mastering engineer wanted, and when I hear that exactly, that's when I know that I'm fully absorbing the album, because that's how the engineer wanted. But in this case they are not accounting for the fact that the system's EQ where this album was mastered has nothing to do with your system's EQ. So basically, if you are playing it back level at your home, it will sound nothing like while it was played back level at the recording engineer, because his level was not your level. And however, when we look at Pink Floyd, Momentary Lapse of Reason, this album was mastered level. So basically, if you have most of the audio systems at home, or I would say like the average of most audio systems, then this album will sound nice and balanced. You don't have to dive and screw around with your EQ controls. You don't have to do that. And in the case like you are an avid pursuer of refined sound, then you don't have to, you will be fine, because you don't have to adjust anything for the EQ. And the Momentary Lapse of Reason, it has just absolutely phenomenal bass. So it's, oh my god, it is just absolutely wonderful, like soul gripping. When I had my slippers on, I have some slippers which are closed toe slippers, and within those closed toe slippers I can feel my toes resonating to the bass notes, some of the bass that this album has playing through the turntable is just, and it's not just about band flapping bass, but bass that just penetrates, and it's there. And this album is the proof that when you have like a nice system using a turntable, yes, it will do bass just absolutely phenomenally when that bass is present on the recording. In this case it's not present on the recording, and you'll have to artificially inflate it by adding 20-30 dB to the bass. Yeah, then the bass will be there, but you have to totally skew the tonal balance for it. And now there are some audio systems which are optimized so that allows for extreme EQs, but the cost of that is that you will have, because of that ability to adjust, you will have a layer that will be subtracted from the direct impact of the experience, and you can make it sound very good and very impressive, but you will never reach that depth of soul connection that you can get with music that does not require such drastic adjustment. And unfortunately, when you have a system that can play this album good, because you can extremely adjust it, it doesn't mean that you can play now every Rush album at absolute best, because their first albums are mastered in a way that will be best sounding on systems that also play this Pink Floyd album the best. So basically, bad news for Rush lovers, you will need two very different systems to enjoy the band's full repertoire of music. And for those of you who are audiophiles, this Pink Floyd album is just a dream. It's an audiophile dream come true. It just sounds absolutely phenomenal, spectacular, really deep, rich, and fantastic. And comparison, the Rush album, it just pales in that regard. It's very far in mastering compared to that Pink Floyd album. Now looking at another pop album, The Knack, Round Trip, and these guys, that's also playable on a regular equipment. It still suffers from that feeling that the bass is EQ'd less and the highs are EQ'd high, but luckily not to that extreme as that Rush album was EQ'd to. It is listenable on a level IQ system. The highs are still a little bit more, but if your system is capable of reproducing high frequencies with clarity, you will be able to fully enjoy this album. So that's why I showed it. However, my comments on this record is good music, record in good condition, but mediocre mastering. So the music is good, the content is good, but the sound quality will be just totally like meh. It's much lower than either of these two albums. And so this album has better sound quality than the next, but the EQ of it makes it absolutely unlistenable unless you can adjust the EQ. Here you don't have to adjust the EQ, but if you have an equipment where you can adjust the EQ, you play the two of them, Rush will sound better on it. If you cannot adjust the EQ, Knack will sound much better than the Rush, but it's not done to that level of sophistication, and you will kind of feel that the sound quality has a lot to improve on this recording, but it was recorded in a way that it's a fun album, fun songs, and I'm keeping it in my collection because I want to listen to it again, despite the fact that it could have been mastered better. So for those of you who love music, this is a great news, because it means that even if you put together a system that is capable of playing music at a very high, very revealing manner, you will be still able to enjoy these albums. And I say that it sounds much better now when I listen to it than I listen to in ordinary systems, but it does not give me those deep chills and those deep, I'm just one with the music type of experience that momentary lapse of reason does. And now let me show you something more, another of my favorite. It is Enya's Watermark. And for those of you who are music lovers and who don't know about Enya yet, and I'm showing this because I have 3 different pressings of the same album in my hand, and I just love it so much. And I now lost my train of thought. So now I'm doing a little bit of a mental reset here. Is that I really deeply connect with Enya's music, and she is getting her inspiration about connecting to the past, connecting to her roots, to her Celtic roots, because Celtic culture was Western Europe's culture basically before the Roman invasion. So Ireland and the British Isles and some parts of the continental Europe as well, we saw the Celtic culture, and it was a much gentler, much more human-centric culture, much softer, recognizing the feminine, cherishing balance of life, wisdom, support of each other, taking care of each other, arts and culture. And when the Roman Empire took over these areas, they completely eradicated this Celtic culture, and they spread over Europe that culture where it's extremely male-centric. They basically destroyed all of the arts that these countries, these regions, these cultures had. So now today in schools it is taught that the Roman culture and Roman expansion 2000 years ago was the best thing that ever happened to humanity, and it was possible that's when culture was born, that's where we became educated. But actually exact opposite was true, that the Romans just eradicated all the culture, vivid poetry, vivid music. So imagine just a flourishing life where humanity was cherished, where women were cherished and appreciated. The families were held as an important role. Communities were held in respect to the nature around them. There was a very deep interconnectedness between man and nature. And when the Roman Empire, Roman invasion came, they eradicated all of that, and they introduced the law of steel. So basically the steel sword, killing off everything that was weak, that was gentle, that was kind, and laid down the cobblestone, the brick roads, commerce, and they paved the way for the modern way of life, which is the one that we know, which is the one that we grew up, which is kind of our consciousness. But we, all of us, know that there is something lost in our culture. There's something not quite right. And there's masses who are suffering, and we don't know what is happening and what our ideas are to strive for. When we reach those ideas like fame, like being the CEO of a company or being a famous actor or something like that, people who attain that, they realize that there's still something missing and they haven't reached what they were looking for. And now our culture is kind of lost. We have lost the substance. We are focusing on externals, on what we vision, what we see, what we are told, what is written down in laws, but we don't feel it. We are disconnected from our feelings. And this is where Enya comes in, that she is digging back into her Celtic roots. She is Irish, and Ireland has retained the deepest connection to its Celtic roots.